Woo! The Golden Stallion, the man of tomorrow, Savzu, the rated R radio star. Here for, well, I'll tell you, we're actually, once again, it's a car cast. I am not alone. I'm with the lovely and hyper-intelligent Dr. Stephanie Murphy.
Hi.
Star Wars
it's a car cast.
A car cast. I was going to say Star Wars non-fan extraordinaire.
Yes, I'm that stickler. I'm that tough critic. So I'll be the Siskel to your Ebert or the Ebert to your Siskel or whatever.
Well, you know, I'll tell you, I'll never forget the review. So we're going to talk about Star Wars The Last Jedi here. As
yeah, we sure are.
I remember the review for Return of the Jedi, and Siskel and Ebert, it was their review. I mean, I didn't, like, I saw it after the fact. It wasn't something because I would have been, like, 2 years old. But, but Siskel and Ebert loved those movies. The original trilogy, they just loved them. And Siskel, I remember him specifically saying, he says, you know what the amazing thing was? When I was watching Return of the Jedi, my head just went in my hands and I was just like a little kid again. And that was like a really powerful thing for a critic, I think, to say. But anyway, Return of the Jedi, just, I guess for reference for a lot of people, and I don't know if you want to weigh in on this, Stephanie. For personal reference, my favorite Star Wars movie to this day is Return of the Jedi. I completely respect when people say it's The Empire Strikes Back. It's such a tough call, but Return of the Jedi's just got that little something extra that puts it over the top for me as far as being the best Star Wars film of all time. By comparison, The Empire Strikes Back, I think, is one of the greatest movies of all time. Not just greatest Star Wars, or, you know, not just Star Wars film, but just one of the greatest films of all time. But when it comes to Star Wars, Return of the Jedi takes it for me. Stephanie, can you say at all, like, do you have an opinion? It's okay if you don't have an opinion on this. But, like, is there one in particular you remember watching that was your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree with you. It's Return of the Jedi.
With the Ewoks?
Yeah.
Yeah, right on.
But I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's one of the greatest movies of all time.
Well, I didn't say Return was. I said Empire was. And I mean that production-wise, and like it's a perfect movie. As in, like, it doesn't have any flaws.
No, it's not perfect.
Empire Strikes Back.
I mean, there's gaping plot holes all over the place.
No, not in Empire.
Star Wars.
Not in Empire Strikes Back. I'm saying, like, in its own, in microcosm, it's a perfect film. I agree that there's plot because, like, you have blatant incest going on in the movie.
And there's no plan. Oh, we've talked about this so many times.
No, right. I know. Well, yeah. So, yeah, I wouldn't say Return of the Jedi is one of the greatest movies ever made. I'd say Empire is, as far as, like, on a production, story, and stylistically, and a lot of, all those metrics. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But Return of the Jedi is your favorite Star Wars movie. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I would say I liked it better than The Last Jedi.
Okay. All right on.
Yeah.
So you liked The Force Awakens, though. You did like The Force Awakens.
Yeah. I mean, I liked it more than I expected to like it.
Yeah, okay.
How about that? But I wouldn't say I liked it.
Fair enough. So real quick, before we go further, I do want to give a thank you. This is actually being recorded, and boy, this thing's got a bit of heft to it, a bit of weight. This is being recorded on my Zoom H6. This is the first recording.
An awesome machine. I really like it.
Yeah, this is a gorgeous device. I mean, this is really heavy-duty stuff, and somebody really got me the hookup. Like, I have the military-grade case for it and everything that people ordered. And, I mean, this is not cheap. This is at a high-end
This
level.
is like Agent Sovereign walks into the casino with a briefcase, and you totally think he's going to take out an Uzi, but he takes, or like it's going to be full of like $10 million.
Yeah.
But he takes out the Zoom H6, and it looks just as cool.
Yeah. I mean, this is a badass piece of machinery here. So anyway, so thank you so much too. I still don't know who the hell did it. Whoever wants to like stand up, I'm happy to give you credit. Hell, you could be on the show.
Well, the real Slim Shady.
Yeah.
Please stand up.
So, anyway, okay. So this is, of course, this is Patreon only content here that you're getting. My review, you'll probably have heard by the time this comes out. You'll have heard my full review of my personal review of The Last Jedi on Sovereign Tech Prime, which will be out there for free for everybody, and I'll also be posting that section of the show on YouTube as well. So the main thing I want to get out of this recording is a lot of what you feel about it, Stephanie. Not so much, really what I've kind of said my piece, even though in my review of it, I spent a lot of time talking about kind of like the surrounding build-up and hype machine around The Last Jedi, even more so than just The Last Jedi, because I'll say it right here, I thought it was a great movie. I thought it was a genuinely great, it is one of the funniest films it might be one of the funniest films I've ever seen.
What?
Oh, yeah.
No way. I completely disagree with that.
Well, hold on.
I thought it was a good movie, but
you were laughing.
I thought the humor was incredibly childish.
You were laughing.
I mean, I giggle at childish jokes sometimes, but I thought it was extremely juvenile. It was, the first thought I had about the movie was that, oh God, this is such a Disney movie. And
yes.
So are they all. Really.
Well, to point.
Except the first three, the original trilogy, felt like less like a Disney movie to me.
Yeah, I mean, to a point, when George Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney in 2013, he said at that moment, he said, I always thought of Star Wars as Disney movies. And so I think there's a point to that, but
however,
now...
George Lucas, the man that never planned ahead so that he would even know what was going to happen in his own trilogy,
sure.
He just started in the fucking middle, like he dropped out
sure.
of the sky.
Sure.
Of course he would say that, because retroactively he's like, oh yeah, I wanted Disney to buy me all along. It was all part of my plan. But he didn't have a plan. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but, I mean, to your point, yes, I agree that this film definitely felt like a Disney/Marvel movie for the first time out of any of the Star Wars films that have been made so far.
Episode 1 didn't feel like a Disney movie to you?
No.
It felt like a kid's movie to me.
Yeah, but I mean, there were very clear... All right, so let me get something else out here. Spoiler alerts, folks, because, we're going to spoil the shit out of this. So I'll make sure that's blatant in the show notes. But,
trigger warning.
Yes,
content warning.
Maybe I'll put it even in the title. I'll have it say spoilers, because there are spoilers. I mean, I don't know when exactly it first clicked that this was really a Disney... I mean, two things about Star Wars, quick. And one of them's in my opinion, a very harsh realization. The other is... Well, anyway, the harsh realization is that these really are, Star Wars created, I think, the young adult genre, shall we say, before young adult movies were a thing.
Huh.
I mean, its characters aren't young adults necessarily. I mean, Rey could kind of fit into that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's partly why Star Wars has always been able to appeal to so many demographics, is because baseline, it's a young adult narrative, I think. And I'm not the first person to say this. This has also been commented on by some other people. So for some of it to be a bit childish, perhaps, and things like this, I don't think that that's necessarily unfair to claim. Now, when watching this movie, as soon as one of the biggest things to happen, in fact, I want to get your take on this, when Leia ends up in space and you think she's dead, mm-hmm. and then she uses the Force to get back onto the Raddus, back onto the ship that she got blown away from, she was literally flying like Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was total Mary Poppins. They had her obviously dressed for that and everything.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of... The way she was dressing, I thought, was a little ridiculous. It almost was like, yeah, we're going to make her look like a Disney princess instead of a general now, which was a little annoying. But...
there were so many childish things about it. I'll go through with all the things I noticed.
Yeah, so, but anyway, let's I mentioned, I said I thought it was a great movie. And I have plenty of critiques, but I still thought I loved it, and I'm going to watch it countless times. I still think it's great.
I was entertained by it, and I liked it, but I was really just going because you wanted to go. Let's be real. But I didn't mind it. I thought it was like a decent movie, better than some other movies I've seen.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a fine rating to say you enjoyed it.
Sure.
That's okay. But, you're still not, you're not sold on Star Wars.
No, especially now. I don't think it's going to get any better either. Like, I think the original 3 movies were the best that it's ever going to be.
Yes. I agree with
and
that.
it's all just going downhill, and now because they were so popular, and because there's such big expectations about any further movies that come out in the series, or any media that comes out in the series, not just movies, like, it always has that expectation, and it's almost like it can never be as good as your first hit of whatever drug.
Yep.
You know, like, it's just never going to be as good, but yet everyone is still going to go see it anyway because they have to. They identify as a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's part of who they are. They're like, oh, of course I'm going to go see it, you know, even though they know it's never going to top the originals.
Yeah, I think you're hitting on a very important point, and I think it's
so obvious that they're milking it for all it's worth, and that just pisses me off. That's the thing that annoys me most about the new Star Wars films, is that it's just so obvious that they're playing off it, they're manipulating people, and they're playing on those heartstrings that they feel for the original movies, and they know that enough people have grown up with it that they can actually take advantage of them to see whatever movies they come out with, even if those movies, well, they don't have to try too hard, they can be crappy and people will still see them.
Well, and as far as like milking it, like, I feel like I agree that that's going on, and I think that's where a lot of it feels very much like the Marvel movies right now, which is really annoying. And these films, like The Last Jedi, really felt, even though there's some bold strokes taken as far as production-wise, not so much in changing the Star Wars universe, but certainly in what you didn't expect from the characters and things like this. It's still, I think it's a very safe film. Like, I felt it was very safe. But you raise an interesting point, and it's interesting that you say this as somebody who, you know, I was the one, I had the honor, and I consider it an honor, to show you the original films, you know, for the first time. And someone needs to do some kind of analysis, and you're not the first person to say this. Like, much bigger diehard fans have also said the same thing, is that they've come to the realization nothing is ever going to beat those first 3 films. And nobody can exactly explain why. Some people think it has to do with the time that they came out, like, just that they were first come, first serve.
In the context of their time, they were impressive.
Right. And maybe that's what it's all about, or whatever it is that makes them so amazing. But it's interesting that even you recognize that, seeing them in today, you know, that, okay, those are the magic, and everything else is just kind of like sucking off of that.
Right.
And
it's just, you can never live up to the hype. You know, there's just so much hype at this point that it's impossible to beat it. And I just don't like feeling like I'm part of a captive audience. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, the Last Jedi was good. Okay, it was. I would even go so far as to say it was great. If it was its own movie, I would have been more impressed with it, because I wouldn't have had that feeling like I'm part of a captive audience. And, you know, I have to sort of start out with this skeptical expectation of like, oh yeah, well, you know, they just know that I'm going to go see this movie, so how good could it really be? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
That feeling colors my whole experience of the film.
Sure. No, I think that's a totally fair critique. So, okay. So how do you feel? How are you feeling overall? Like, and like, what was your favorite? What was your favorite part of the film? Like, what was your favorite scene? Let's do that. We'll kind of do like a Q&A structure here.
Oh my gosh. My favorite part of the film was those little penguin chicken things and Chewie.
Those were great. The porgs were... That
was the cutest thing.
Which is funny, because Star Wars fans, like, apparently they were hating these things. They thought they were going to be the new Ewoks and everything.
What?
And I'm like, no, you know, this is going to be great. And there were points where even, like, there was this guy sitting next to us in the theater when we were seeing this, right? There's this guy sitting next to us, and, you know, just kind of like totally sarcastic, and you could just tell kind of like this asshole sort of teenager type, whatever, or younger type. And there was one point where even he just goes, "Aww," they were just so cute.
Yeah,
you know, yeah, the porgs were phenomenal. I agree with you there. That was some funny and some cuteness that they totally delivered on.
Oh, it was adorable, and I'm glad they had Chewie in there at least for a little bit. You know.
Yep. Yeah, Chewbacca was.
He
good.
was in there just enough to make it Star Wars, and to add some humor, and to say, oh, okay, we saw Chewie. But he wasn't like a major plot point or major center.
Right.
Now, actually expanding on that thing about the porgs, I actually think my favorite part of the movie was that whole island that Luke Skywalker was living on. It was just gorgeous. Like
on Octu, yeah.
Yeah. And the names of the planets are something that I always, that I spent a lot of time busting Brian's balls complaining about. But
we'll talk about
I didn't know the planet was called Octu.
Bless you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. Oh, God.
I thought it was Octo, but then it come to find out it's Octu, and I'm like, okay, whatever.
Of course it is.
Yeah, so...
but, I mean, that was just beautiful. I mean, I don't know where they filmed that. Maybe in New Zealand or something.
No, it was it's in Ireland, I think. Skellig Island or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, it was just gorgeous, and it was perfect. It was the perfect setting. I wanted to go there, and that's always a good sign when I find myself saying, oh, I wish I could go there, you know, when I'm watching a movie. That's how you know that that's a scenery that's really intrigued me. I mean, I like the huts, the one that Rey was staying in, the little sweat lodges with the fires and everything, and the little meditation rock that was perfectly overlooking the sea, and all the little sea creatures. Oh, it was just really cool.
I loved it. I wish they would have explained a lot more, spent a lot more time there.
I think that's not unique to that planet or that island at all, because that's one of my biggest issues with Star Wars in general, is that I feel like they don't spend nearly enough time setting the scene or characterizing any of the planets, any of the species. And there's like these random aliens that pop up that look funny, and everyone's like, oh, isn't that an interesting looking alien? But nobody ever says, okay, where did they come from? What are they called? What language did they speak? Why do they look like that? You know, nobody ever gives enough background information to make me really care about those aliens besides, oh, they look funny, you know? And same thing with that planet. Okay, why is it like that? Where is it really located? Why did Luke Skywalker go there? Why, you know, like, they just didn't spend... Who are these caretakers that live there? Where did the Porgs come from? Where is this little Nessie coming from? You know what I mean? Why is the Force so strong in that island? Why is there a dark side underneath it? Like, nobody ever explains those things, and I think if they did explain those things more, it would be a lot more interesting.
Well, and I think that's a fair point. You know, just to give a brief history on that. I mean, first of all, you like, actually the caretakers, the race name is like the Lunar or something like that. But
they never said that in the movie.
No, right. You have to kind of pay the price of admission for the expanded materials, the tie-in materials, the visual dictionaries, all that different stuff that explain all of it. Or not all of it, but a lot of it. Like, you find, like, it's amazing, those caretakers on Octu, you find out that only the women actually are the caretakers that take care of this Jedi village. The men
surprise.
are what they call visitors, that they're fishing all the time. And they come and they dock there, but the men, like, don't live there. They just stay out at sea. And it's this really wild, I mean, it's interesting. But yeah, like, you're right. They never really explain this stuff in the films.
You know, and I don't think they can get away with that because, and I'll tell you why, because Star Trek has perhaps even more examples of aliens, alien races and planets than Star Wars does. But yet, they explain the background so much better. Like,
well, they have whole series to do that with.
Right, but even if we look at just the movies, like if they introduce a new species or a new planet, they spend enough time to give proper background on it, and they don't just spring it on you out of nowhere, and you're left wondering, like, what the fuck is this? This thing looks interesting, but nobody told me anything about it, you know?
Yeah.
You're not left feeling lost and swimming, like, around and floating around in space like I felt like I was in a lot of Star Wars.
Yeah, I don't think that's unfair to say. I think people actually, back in, like, the 80s, I think people felt the same way. And they really wanted to know more. And in fact, there was a company, West End Games, that came out with a tabletop role-playing game like Dungeons & Dragons back in the 80s. And a lot of people don't realize just how big of a deal that was to the popularity and the continued popularity of Star Wars. Because what this role-playing game did was it started filling in all that information that you're talking about. For the original trilogy, anyway. And people were hungry for it. And people would buy these books even if they didn't play the game, just because they wanted to know more about, who are these people, who are the Mon Calamari, who are all these different races.
Well, I can believe that in the 80s.
Yeah.
But nowadays, people have a short attention span. If you don't sell somebody on something quick, they're not going to care. They're just going to move on. They're not going to seek out the dictionary and extra information and look it up.
No, I don't think. Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair point, that they don't spend a lot of time with that. And you know what? And this was actually a critique of The Force Awakens, and I think the same could be leveled on The Last Jedi. Was that for some reason, like J.J. Abrams, and of course in The Last Jedi it was directed by Rian Johnson, but like he brought in all these new aliens, and it's like, why not just stick with the old ones? That way you could have some history and some grounding. And it was kind of a weird choice, I thought, to bring. I mean, yeah, it's a huge galaxy. That's always the argument that gets leveled against that, saying, well, why does it only have to be Ithorians and all these other people? It's like, well, because you want to have some commonality in your universe that you're exploring. But anyway, I don't think that's unfair. I get your point. And in fact, yeah. Well, anyway, okay. That's a good point.
And don't even get me started. Like you mentioned, the Mon Calamari. Don't even get me started on how childish that sounds. Right? Okay, you're telling me an alien with a squid for a head is called a Mon Calamari? Seriously? Like, and where the fuck did they come up with some of these names? Like, two of the names that always get me are Tatooine and what was the other one you said? Hosnian.
Oh, Hosnian Prime.
Oh my God. Okay, somebody encountered like a Bosnian person or something like that. Or they were talking about like Hosni Mubarak. And they're like, I'm going to call the planet Hosnian. And they're like, an alien that looks like a squid? Oh, Mon Calamari.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, when you're a kid, it doesn't matter.
Right, but when you're an adult, you're like rolling your eyes. At least I was. I was rolling my eyes.
Yeah, well, so fair enough. Okay, so your favorite...
The two pieces of kind of childish humor that I thought were the funniest were one, as I already mentioned, when Chewie is flying this spaceship with one of the Porgs as his mascot.
Oh, yeah.
And it gets, like, he takes a sharp turn because he's trying to escape from somebody shooting at him, and the Porg gets flung against the window, and it's, like, sitting there, like,
yeah, its mouth is just wide open.
Yeah, like flung against the window. It's so cute. And then my other favorite humor moment was when Leia is on the bridge of the ship trying to like rein in Poe Dameron, like attacking the
dreadnought.
Yeah, the dreadnought. And like it's kind of a tense scene, and everybody's worried about what's going to happen. She's telling him to like stand down and like come back to the ship because his life is in danger and stuff like that. And C-3PO is standing right there, and she goes, "Wipe that nervous look off your face, C-3PO." And that was so funny. I like that.
Carrie Fisher was phenomenal in this. I think, for her last performance, it was a fine one. Like, wonderful. I mean, she really delivered, and it was good. Even though I didn't feel... This gets back to... Well, you got to listen to my review on my Cybertech Prime episode. Because I felt like everything they were saying in the media about what was going to be in this film, none of it, like, ended up really coming true.
Yeah, because I just thought I remembered hearing when Carrie Fisher died in 2016. I thought I remembered hearing, okay, now they have to rewrite some parts of this movie.
Well, they have to rewrite 9.
Oh, they have to rewrite 9.
Yeah, they said they weren't going to do anything with 8, but they did say that there'd be some kind of a send-off for her in 8. I didn't see any send-off.
No, there was no send-off.
I mean, it's fine.
I thought maybe when she ended up in space, that was going to be it.
Yeah, I think they're going to change their mind. I think that they're going to... Well, that doesn't matter what I think, because I think trying to predict what Disney is going to do with this shit is a waste of fucking time now. But...
Well, the good part for them is they could do anything, because Star Wars has no rhyme or reason. There's a lot of opening.
Yeah. That's totally fair. So, okay, so your favorite part was the Porgs, and
the island and that joke of Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, and the island too. Like, I was really hoping to find out some interesting things about like the ancient Jedi, And,
oh, yeah, and they ended up burning all their sacred texts, so now we'll never know.
Well, no, they didn't burn. The texts were aboard the Falcon.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that part.
Yeah, it was a split second where you see it's right at the end of the film. I think Rey opens up like a compartment on the Falcon, and Luke must have snuck the books on there or something.
Oh, okay. Well, that was a key moment that I somehow missed.
That was just so there's so much. They just threw away so much with all that. Anyway, it was because I love that island too. I thought it was beautiful. It's a great locale, and to just use the locale is largely like a humor thing and all that, which the humor hit. I thought that just seemed like a waste. You could have really done some amazing things there, but
yeah. And the other thing is, why are the Jedi sacred texts in the form of paper books in this supposedly technologically advanced world? Why isn't there a copy somewhere?
Because, I mean, the stuff's thousands of years old, you know.
Right, but are you telling me they've never been digitized?
Well, they probably were, but they were. Well, see, you didn't see episode like 2 and 3 where they showed the Jedi archives and everything. They would have been digitized, but they're gone. Like Palpatine, the Sith destroyed a lot of that stuff.
Okay.
Even though
the Library of Alexandria.
Yeah, even though in the comic books, Jocasta Nu right now in the Darth Vader comic, the second volume that's running, Jocasta Nu might have saved some of it, but that's a whole other story. So, anyway, actually, I didn't think about this until you said it, but there's an interesting message to be had there that, kind of having like these secret hidden paper copies laying around somewhere is pretty important. But anyway, regardless. So, how about what was your most disliked scene of the film or moment or thing? What didn't you like?
Well, oh gosh, I disliked a lot of scenes. I thought the scenes on the bridge of the Dreadnought were just so over the Captain Hux.
Oh, General Hux, yeah.
Yeah, General Hux was just like, I get it, they were trying to make him seem like an asshole and just like that he was tripping all over himself and he thought he was so self-important, but he was actually just a fucking fool. And it was like, okay, we got it, right? Like, they just hammered that so hard and it ended up seeming really childish. That was, to me, what made it seem like a Disney movie, because they were making him into such an over-the-top, bumbling villain, Which he wasn't exactly in The Force Awakens, so there was kind of a shift. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I mean, I had said, I feel that this movie did border. It was hilarious, but it did border on almost getting to too funny.
Yeah, that was more like slapstick.
Yeah, okay.
That was just slapstick.
Sure.
And also, I never got why Snoke was such a bad guy.
Yep.
Right, and they killed him off in a very unceremonious way, showing that now Kylo Ren is going to be the main bad guy you got to worry about, right?
Yep.
But like Snoke, they never really built up to say why. Like, who was he, right? How did he get that powerful? How did he pay for this extravagant spaceship? Like how? Like, they never characterized him either, and that definitely felt like something was missing for me.
Yeah, this is another area where...
And what is his motivation? Why does he want to squash the resistance, right?
Right.
Why can't he just ignore them?
Right. Yeah, this is an area where I feel like it's another Marvel like trope with Marvel movies where they never develop the villains.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, trust us, he's a bad guy.
Yeah,
and move on,
Right, and people are saying like, oh, I thought killing him off was a good idea because we were never really sold on him anyway. They never tried.
Well, yeah, exactly. They never tried. Sell us. Try to sell us.
Yeah.
Don't be so lazy.
I mean, they didn't even try. Like, not even close. Count up the amount of screen time that he had. And then, and what's funny is people are saying, well, but how much did you really know about the Emperor? And it's like, well, you knew enough. You saw his fucking empire. That was enough to let you know, okay, this guy's serious.
And Darth Vader is like an iconic villain.
Right.
He was built up enough to make people hate him and make him into a villain. Like, you really got to make people hate a villain.
Yeah.
And Snoke, it was just like, man, who cares? Like, nobody... They didn't give us enough to be interested in him at all. all.
Yes, right.
So why even have him? Even if you're going to kill him off, why even have him?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Everything in a movie should be done on purpose, and that just felt like it was thrown in there, and it really didn't have a purpose.
Yeah, there's something very odd.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't... Well, anyway. So Snoke was kind of purposeless. Hux... Go ahead.
One more thing I liked. I liked the telepathy scenes between Rey and Kylo Ren. I thought they were well done. Like, I really liked...
That's interesting.
I liked the voice effect. It was like, okay, that's exactly how I would imagine somebody would sound if you're talking to them through your mind, you know?
Right.
And I liked that they were both like, what are you doing here? Kind of like, why are we talking to each other right now?
That's interesting that you like that. Maybe other people did. My first thought of it, and maybe I need to see the movie again, I thought, not that the power was that weird, like their ability to do that, because you kind of get hints that sort of thing can happen anyway in previous movies. I thought they should have had like some kind of like ethereal presence. Mm-hmm. All they really did was just look at the camera,
right?
And like they would
maybe
cut
they were
back and
skipping
forth
on the CGI or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I thought that was a good like creative low budget way to do it.
Well, if it was, well, that's the
or
thing.
Or subtles, anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing. If this wasn't Star Wars, I would have thought that would have been clever, But since it's Star Wars,
then what do they need to have a low budget way of doing it for, right?
Yeah, like there's no budget constraints on making a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
well, the other thing that's kind of along that vein is like when Yoda came back to Luke.
Yes.
I was confused about whether he was there. I said to Brian, didn't Yoda die? Like, how is he coming back? And Brian said, yeah, well, he came back as a Force ghost, but that wasn't clear because he wasn't blue enough. And he wasn't blue at all.
Yeah, all he had was an outlining of blue. I thought that was a failure.
It should have looked like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right, in Return of the Jedi, when you see him, he's like blue.
Yes.
Like, it is very clear.
It was clear that was not the living in the flesh Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Actually, I agree. They dropped the ball on that. That was, they brought Frank Oz back to voice it. That was great, to voice Yoda, but they really did drop the ball on that effect. In fact, I even said to you, I was like, I almost felt like they actually pulled the old puppet out of mothballs from the 80s, of Yoda to do that, because it looked very real, like, it looked like a puppet.
Yeah.
It didn't look like CGI, but they really should have amped the ghost effect a lot more. Maybe what'll happen in the future is, when these things come out on Blu-ray or whatever, they can make little changes. Maybe they'll do that. I don't know.
Maybe. Another thing I didn't like was that it had this feeling to me, like I'm not a super fan, and I was having enough trouble just following the plot to like be reading between the lines too much, but
sure.
I couldn't help being left with this impression that they were purposely, deliberately trying to transition away from the old actors from the original series and hand the torch down to the new actors like Rey and Finn and Rose, the new character, and the new animated characters and CGI characters and this Admiral, and obviously they're going to do that, right? Because people are going to start dying. Like, they didn't know Carrie Fisher was going to die. I agree, but to me, I was thinking, I just couldn't help feeling like I was left with the impression that they were doing it because they wanted to get some new blood in there, because they don't want to deal with like paying the old actors. Like, they're like, okay, these people are getting too big for their britches. We're just gonna, get these new unknown talent in and kind of like undercut them.
Sure, admittedly,
and Disney totally does that to their actors.
Yeah, admittedly,
allegedly,
Harrison Ford wanted out. I don't.
Yeah.
He's one that he was happy to get killed, and move on. Like, I almost guarantee that. I think Disney certainly is happy to bring in a lot of fresh blood.
Yeah.
People that they have under interesting contracts and whatever else. So
I was almost wondering about Mark Hamill. Like, did what was going on with Luke, the character of Luke, like kind of reflect his own reluctance to like come back to participate in the movies.
Yeah, I don't. The only thing that stands against that is he came out a couple months ago saying he can't believe the direction or a few months ago, the direction that Rian Johnson was taking the character in, and he didn't agree with it. Like he didn't like it.
Oh,
so
wow,
yeah, I think, and honestly, to some degree, I can understand. I'm at this point where I'm siding with Mark Hamill on that, because I wanted Luke to be. I mean, I know it's my own personal preference. Mm-hmm. I wanted Luke to be something else, but yeah.
Oh, by the way, let's talk about that death scene of Luke.
Okay,
let's talk about it. Whoa. Dumb.
Spoilers.
He just disappeared.
Yeah.
It wasn't even clear to me that he died.
Yeah.
Like, it was great that when he gets shot at and stuff, he's not really standing there. He's just making himself appear to Kylo Ren, and he's fooling him. And that was great. But then it's like you see him on that rock, and he's like concentrating on his meditation, and he's staggering around because it took so much energy. But then he's just like poof, and his jacket blows away. And then that's that. And it's like, what just happened?
Yeah, so he makes there's a very important line, I think, that Luke gives on Crate, when they're on Crate. He says,
what's Crate?
That's the planet with all the salt.
Oh, okay. Well, that was beautiful. I liked how they did that.
Yeah, it was gorgeous.
With the red every time something
was
print.
Red crystal
that was
underneath,
really cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah. He says none of us are ever really gone.
Yes, and I thought that was pretty purposeful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's like saying, well, don't bother thinking anybody's dead. We'll always come back, and that's kind of annoying because that's very comic booky. Like that's very, that's a little too Marvel for my taste.
Yeah. It would have been more epic if Carrie Fisher had said that.
Yes, actually, wow, boy, I just got chills when you said that. You're right.
Right. Because that's what everybody was thinking.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking anyway.
Yeah.
I felt like people were almost tearing up a little bit when he said that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had some close moments, anytime she was on screen,
I reached
frankly.
Over and held your hand.
Yeah, because that was rough. So, yeah, all right. So I get that. I thought the death of Luke, the way he was done, was kind of cheap.
Yeah, it was all just. It's very magical. That's another thing that made it feel so Disney to me. Mm-hmm. It was just it relied so heavily on magic.
Sure.
And speaking of that, this was the first movie where I've really heard the Force described as a religion. And Luke says that early in the film. He says it's a religion, which was surprising. It stood out to me. It was like, oh, they never said that before, really.
Yeah, which that's kind of the first time. Yeah, I think outside of A New Hope, because like Tarkin says it in A New Hope, but that's really the only time you ever get that kind of like sense that it's a religion. And yeah, that was interesting. And part of that has to do with Disney has definitely been spending a lot of time in tie-in material saying that, okay, there's a lot of Force users in the universe. They're not all Jedi or Sith. Like there's different, there's a species out there that calls it the Tide instead of the Force. There's a lot of this different stuff. So, yeah, that falls in line with that, and I think that I agreed. I thought that was kind of interesting. And yeah, but I mean, things like that, it would have been great if they would have explored a little bit more of it, because like there's this little pool on when they're on Octu that you keep looking at it. It's like, well, what's in this pool? And because every time they show it, it's actually upside down. The way you're viewing it, you can't see what it actually is. But supposedly in this little pool, it looks almost like a yin and a yang. But it's really
that mosaic thing.
Yeah, the little mosaic.
Yeah,
it's actually more like a Buddha style. Like there's a person. When you have it right side up, it looks like a person in like a like a meditation pose. And supposedly that's Jedi Prime, who was like the first Jedi or something. In this little mosaic pool. But
Jesus.
Wouldn't it be nice if they explained that? If they talked about that? Say, oh, this is the first Jedi. This is blah blah blah.
Yes, it would have been so easy to have Luke explain that.
Yeah, it would have been great, and you get nothing.
Yep.
And I that kind of disappointed me.
Yep.
But okay, so we got what you didn't like. How did you feel about Canto Bite?
What's Canto Bight?
That's the casino planet. So it's that forgettable.
Well, I didn't know the name of it.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Well, no, I thought it was forgettable. Go ahead.
So, again, that was one of those scenes where I almost felt like it was a callback to that bar scene with Jabba the Hutt's bar.
Sure, or like in Mos Eisley in the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And I really thought that was... I felt that was a milking thing where they were deliberately trying to remind people of that. And there were so many aliens in that scene where it was like, what the fuck are these aliens? Where did they come from? Who are they? Like, why do they look like that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. One of the funny things, maybe I just have Bitcoin on the brain, but like with BB-8, where there was a scene where some alien goes up to him and he's in the casino or it's in the casino and this alien thinks it's a slot machine or a game, and he's trying to put coins in BB-8, and the coins look like Casacious Bitcoins, and BB-8 sort of has that orange coloration and those little like spikes, and if you look at BB-8 fast, it almost looks like it could be a Bitcoin symbol on him. And I kept thinking like, oh my god, it's like a Bitcoin robot and someone's putting Casacious coins, and then later he saves the day by like spitting out the coins at somebody else.
Yeah.
So, and then of course they had to get a jab in at the evil capitalists, right? Like,
well, it was a very eat the rich scene.
Yeah.
The whole thing, it was kind of out of place.
Right, they were saying, oh, well, the only industry that makes people this rich is war profiteering, and these people are so evil, and Rose goes through this whole thing about how me and my sister grew up on this poor mining planet, and they took everything we had, and then they're abusing the horses, and they're abusing the kids, they're doing child labor. It's like every trope about capitalism, right? And then meanwhile, there's these people drinking expensive drinks in the casino, and rolling their craps, and, like looking all hoity-toity, and they don't have a care in the world, and meanwhile they're blissfully unaware that the horses are down there being shocked with electric things, and they've got scars on their neck, and it was just that was another thing that felt childish and juvenile to me. It's like, you might as well have like a Mr. Monopoly Man, like stereotype of a capitalist, right? Like, well,
they almost did.
Yeah, basically, that's what it was.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. I liked those horse things, like the scenes where those horses were...
Fathiers, yeah.
Okay, see, I wouldn't have known that that's what they were called, but...
Well, they at least said what those were in the movie. Like, they never mentioned that the porgs are porgs. They never mentioned... Like, there's so many things they didn't give a name to. The Fathiers were one of them that they did. But yes, go ahead.
Well, speaking of things they didn't give a name to, Benicio del Toro...
Well, okay, so funny...
is the character that they meet in the jail when Rose and Finn get arrested for a supposed parking violation. Oh, another ANCAP trope, right? They get arrested because they're accused of a parking violation for parking their starship on the beach or something.
Yeah, but I think that would actually happen in an ANCAP future. Like,
right, but it's a trope anyway.
Oh, sure,
right?
Sure.
It's like, oh, officer, arrest these people. They're not respecting my private property. And the officer's like, yes, sir, we care about private property around here. We take this very seriously. Let's throw these motherfuckers in jail.
Right.
And then they get thrown in there with Benicio del Toro. And he was great. He gave a great performance.
Yes.
And he was able to sneak them on. He was able to be this sketchy codebreaker hacker dude that was able to sneak them onto the Dreadnought, and Finn knew his way around, and he was very resourceful in that way. And they even showed a little humanity by him giving the yin yang necklace back to Rose. That was her sister's.
Lights.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah,
lights, camera, action.
Lights, camera, action. Yeah.
But the thing is, they never characterized him. He didn't even have a fucking name.
Well, the thing is...
Why was he in jail? How did he get all these hacking skills? What is his motivation? Why is he such a gray hat person? Like he's just out for himself. What happened to him to make him that way? Nobody knows because they never characterized him.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. This is another instance where like the tie-in material, and not just the tie-in material, but also the press releases and things like this over the past few months, not just recently, but over the past few months. Like, so all we knew of Benicio del Toro's character for the past year was that he's this character named DJ, or not, we didn't even know that it was his name. That they just said that's the initials that they labeled it as. Okay, and they said he's this classic man in black, whatever. I mean, sadly, this character, I agree with you, the character was great. Total egoist. You know, he has the best line, in my opinion, of the movie. I don't know if you agree, where he says, "Live free, don't join."
Yes, okay? That was a great line too.
Yeah, that was awesome. Like that's my new motto in life. And so this character, now they are going to release a comic book of him next month in January 2018.
Okay, that's great, but by then I don't care.
Right. Okay.
I'm just like sour that they never characterized him in the movie.
Yeah. So in the visual dictionary, again, you're not. I understand. I totally get your point. You don't care. You don't want to read that. You know.
Uh-huh.
But you find out that DJ is just his name, or at least that's the name that he runs by. And DJ actually stands for "Don't Join."
Oh, that's cool.
And even his hat, he has that hat with like a little like writing on it, on like this metal plate. And supposedly the writing on that hat means "Don't join," which is a little over the top, but I guess that's the score. But I agree with you. This is what I talk about in my full review, is that, like, I mean, because that character sadly was only in it for all of like 10 minutes, not even. You know, that's the amount of I mean, his actual screen time is even less. And like even like the ship that they steal is called the Libertine. I was like, oh, that's great. It's called the Libertine. You know, live free, don't join. This is awesome messages that you're getting out there, right? And but it's practically nothing. And like you said, you get no explanation. You have no idea why this guy is there. I mean, you get nothing.
Yeah, and you end up disliking him because he ends up selling out Rose and Finn.
Yeah, when maybe if you had a little more character development, you'd have some more understanding behind that.
Right. Because and he stutters. Why does he stutter?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they were hyping him up, and then they dropped the ball on this guy.
Yeah, they did drop the ball.
And it was very...
But, I mean, great performance by Benicio del Toro.
Oh, that guy's amazing.
He was awesome.
Yeah, that guy's amazing. So, yeah, that was... DJ was definitely one of the highlights of that movie. Like easily. He was... And that almost makes the Canto Bite scene worth it, because that's how you get him. But, oh, man, that was something else. So the fathiers. So you like them. You thought that those animals were pretty cool.
Oh, they were extremely sweet. You know, all the animals that they have in Star Wars pretty much make you think, oh, I should really be a vegetarian. They're so cute. If these things were around and this was the only source of food, I would definitely have to be a veggie.
Yeah.
Because you can't eat them. Even Chewie can't eat them after he sees those boars.
Yeah.
He's about to bite into one, and then they're looking at him like, meh.
Yeah. Okay, so do you have any other kind of comments, anything else that you can think of that you wanted to get out about the film or about Star Wars in general? I have one last question, but I do have a couple comments.
Sure,
go for it.
I thought it was interesting how twice the rebels utilized the tactic of suicide bombing in order to get strategic advantages. And yes, I know that's been done in Star Wars before, but with the political context now, I'm just surprised that Disney would show suicide bombing as like as a positive thing, you know, and on the good guys' side.
Sure.
And the two times were when Rose's sister was dropping those bombs on the Dreadnought, and she accomplished, you know, bombing it. And the second time was when that admiral flew the starship into the other Dreadnought.
Oh man, that was a hell of a scene. You know, I forgot to mention that in my full review. I get what you're saying. One could argue was that they were defending themselves by destroying the Dreadnought. Both times that they were like really justifiably defending themselves. One could make that argument. But the tactics of like a lot of the small time guerrilla tactics are definitely a major part of the resistance, or what is now, I think now they're officially calling it the rebellion again.
Right, okay.
I think that is interesting that they kind of allow for that, and you know, you don't think about it because they're the good guys.
Right, and because it's Star Wars. But,
right.
But, like, were they trying to send some kind of message with that? I mean, I just thought it was like an interesting seed to plant in the minds of children of like, oh, sometimes rebels that they have to use guerrilla tactics, but what about the U.S. empire, right? What about the people who use guerrilla tactics against them in the Middle East?
Ooh, yeah, no, absolutely. So, but I gotta say, when Amilyn Holdo takes the Radis and puts it into hyperspace and just cuts through the entire First Order fleet, like they made, that was a brilliant direction move to have everything just go to total silence. A direction move, by the way, originally more or less pioneered by George Lucas in Attack of the Clones, which supposedly everybody hates. Sorry, he completely copied him. And I thought that was, that was like, everybody I think in the theater was just like, whoa.
I actually heard some people go, whoa.
Yeah, like hand to mouth, because it was... Yeah, that was so wild.
That was stunning. That was really cool.
Yeah.
The move itself, I feel almost like I saw that in Star Trek Discovery. Where somebody flies their ship into the Klingon ship.
Oh, sure. That's been done many a time.
It's done a lot.
But that was particularly epic, I think. Just what a brilliant shot. Okay, so yeah, the terrorist aspects of it, sure, that's very interesting. What else?
That was interesting. I don't know if we talked about this, but like Rey's parents, and Kylo Ren claiming to know what her parents were about. Yeah. How does he know?
Oh, so
why does she believe him?
A lot of people have been asking this. I thought that the movie explained that Snoke, when he's the one that created the bridge between their minds, and that he saw it when she was doing her bullshit in that dark side cave, that Kylo saw it there. However, even if that's how that worked out, maybe Snoke did something to confuse what the reality was around her parentage, or maybe they saw bullshit. I think, I don't think she has any reason to actually believe Kylo, and I think that'd be easy enough for them to completely change this around to where that's not what's going on. Right. I think in The Force Awakens, you're hitting on a very powerful point. In The Force Awakens, there were a lot of mysteries built up that was
anticlimactic in this movie.
Yeah, so any relation, really, I felt like any relation in this movie to The Force Awakens, any relative material or content came off as anticlimactic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like The Force Awakens I think is a better movie than this one. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but I think it is. But The Force Awakens is cheapened heavily and the effect of The Force Awakens is cheapened heavily by the supposed realizations of this film. The killing of Snoke, the lack of training on Ahch-To, Luke tossing the lightsaber.
Right.
Rey's parents being just simple junk traders, supposedly.
Yeah.
All of that stuff that completely cheapened the entire setup of The Force Awakens. And it makes it very hard for me to believe that means that's what J.J. Abrams had in mind. Like, that this was the plan.
Yeah, so that's the thing. This is episode 8 of a supposed trilogy of trilogies.
Yep.
But you didn't get the sense that we were nearing a resolution at all. There was nothing that tied everything together.
Right.
It just seems like, okay, this is going to just go on forever in this pointless fight between the light and the dark, and there's going to be new players, but it's the same game. You know what I mean? I didn't get the sense that we were even close to wrapping anything up. And that's exactly what Disney wants, because they want to keep making episode 10, 11, 12, and just milking this for fucking ever. And people are going to run out of patience eventually.
Yeah, eventually you got to pay off. You got to pay all this tease.
Episode 8 should be in the plot of a book or a movie, there's the build up, and then at the end, usually right before the last couple chapters, you're almost at the climax, right? So you're at the point of extreme tension.
Right.
And then maybe even the climax starts, and then the last chapter is the resolution.
Right.
It's like an orgasm, right?
Yep,
you're
sure.
building up,
Right.
there's a lot of tension before the climax, and then, the resolution, where we tie up all the loose ends.
Right.
Well, you didn't get the sense that you were near the climax at all in this movie.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I really agree with that. I think that's a solid point to bring up.
It feels like you're still in the middle.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, Episode 9 has a lot of work to do. I agree with you. I think that there's, JJ's got his work cut out for him, because J.J. Abrams is coming back to put this one together. And, I don't know what this is going to end up looking like. Because really the only enemy you actually have seems to be Kylo Ren, and you still, you didn't get, I don't think you got enough First Order in this movie. Like, explain to us, show us more. Like the Empire, you got a sense of just how much Empire there is, how much, kind of its reach and its power and all that. And, I don't know. I don't feel like you have a really great target to look at going into Episode 9.
The plot that you were speculating about when we were having dinner before the movie started, I actually liked better than the real plot of the movie. Which was the one that you were speculating about was maybe this is what Brian was envisioning, okay? I love his mind. They should hire him to write the next movie, by the way.
Thank you.
Brian goes, I think in this movie, you're going to find out that there's actually something that's worse than the Empire out in the deep reaches of uncharted space, and it's going to be so bad that basically the Empire and the Rebels are going to have to join forces together, and there's going to be gray Jedis that aren't good or bad and black or white, and they're going to have to join forces against this thing that's going to be like the Borg. That's this unbeatable, horrible enemy that no one saw coming and no one imagined. And then you're going to find out that, well, it isn't really as simple as light or dark or black and white, because you're going to have the introduction of sort of gray Jedis. And I thought that would be a wonderful plot for a movie. I would have probably liked it better than this one.
Yeah, so, same, thank you. So, but I based all of that plot line on hints that have been dropped throughout tie-in material and everything that's been going on since Disney took over. Because they've been hinting that there's stuff out in the unknown regions. They've been hinting at all these different things. And, I mean, if you don't pay it off that's what's coming in Episode 8, you've got to explain that out of nowhere in Episode 9, and then you have to resolve that conflict?
Right.
Yeah.
Obviously, one more movie is not going to do the trick. There's obviously going to go 10, 11, 12, 13, fucking forever.
You got to do something. I don't know. But that sucks, because
they're just going to come out with a new movie every Christmas.
Yeah. Well, what's sad about it is one of the strengths of the original trilogy is you felt like you got finality at the end. Like Return of the Jedi, you could stop it there, and that's fine.
Yeah, they probably should have stopped there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like okay, yeah, everybody's singing "Celebrate the Love," we're done. Like that's great.
Yeah,
and I this is going to be a real challenge. I think you're raising excellent points. I like this outsider kind of perspective that you're bringing into.
Well, this is why I don't like Star Wars, because I feel like I'm constantly being toyed with. I feel like I'm part of a captive audience, and I feel like I'm supposed to just. I feel like my like for the original trilogy is just supposed to carry me through no matter what the fuck they decide to do. And I don't like that. I feel like I'm in a relationship where I'm being taken for granted as a fan. And I don't like that. And I also just... Nobody ever answers the question, what is the fucking point of it all?
Well,
What is the point? And it could just go on forever.
Yeah.
In this pointless conflict that nobody explains why it's going on or what's the background or why it's important. And they have all these weird characters that they really don't sell you on, and it just kind of goes on forever and just bleh,
Yeah.
That's why I don't like Star Wars, because of those feelings that I get.
Yeah, and I think that's a great question that a lot of people probably can't exactly answer. And usually what they do is the answer that they commonly give, well, it's, I don't know.
The hero's journey.
Yeah, it's the hero's journey. It's this classic story, and so that's why it appeals to so many people.
Okay, maybe it was the hero's journey the first time.
Yeah.
But how long is this journey going to go on?
No, I know. My answer straight up is it's just cool. Like, it hits a lot of cool buttons that science fiction never really hit before. That's the thing, is that science fiction never really did something that was, like, sleek and even sexy and cool. And you just never got that. Until Star Wars made that concept a reality?
Okay, well, one, in response to that, Disney is the least sexy production company.
Oh, sure.
And they are
I'm
going
saying
to guarantee...
I'm saying with the original trilogy, but yeah, keep going.
Well, yeah, okay, I can see that, but at the same... And I know you're referring to just, like, the aesthetic of the whole movie that you thought was sexy, but it also had problems. I mean, the rapey kisses between Leia and Han Solo, where she's like, ew, get off of me, I don't like you, and he kisses her and she likes it.
Sure.
Right? Like, that fucked up every little boy and every little girl that saw it.
Sure, fair.
And, and I mean, people thinking of it as a sexy movie doesn't help with that. Also, Disney is going to ensure that it's always PG-13 and it's always appropriate for kids or young adults at most, and it never goes beyond kisses or heck,
Yeah.
Like, I thought it would have been great. There were a few times in the movie, somebody said, I hate this ship or something like that, and I thought they were saying, I hate this shit. And I was like, oh my god, I realized that they said, I hate this ship.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh my god, it would have been so much better if he had actually said, I hate this shit.
Yeah, well, this is, and this is what I always bring up. I say that Star Trek is objectively superior to Star Wars because it's willing to explore all those other aspects of the human condition that Star Wars is just never going to touch, and it sure as fuck isn't going to touch it with Disney in charge. All right, so then my last question, we'll wrap this up. Are you in any way excited for Episode 9? Are you looking forward to seeing it? Do you want to see it? Give me that take.
No, I'm really not looking forward to it because I feel like we're just going to be left with more questions than answers. There is definitely going to be more material beyond Episode 9. Who knows when the fuck it's going to end? It's never going to end.
Yeah.
And we're just going to continue being strung along like a little cat with a little toy on the end of a string. And I don't look forward to that feeling.
Sure. Fair enough.
I'm kind of curious to see what the fuck they do with it, because we're, like, really...
But it's like a morbid curiosity,
where could they possibly go from here, right? That's the only reason I'm curious about it, is like, okay, how the fuck do they think they're gonna pull off the next episode? What are they actually gonna do?
Yeah, right.
I know they're not going to bring it to a resolution that's satisfactory, but what the fuck are they going to do?
No, fair. Absolutely. So obviously we will be seeing it.
It's like a train wreck. You can't look away.
Yeah.
And what else are you going to do on Christmas, really?
Well, now they're coming out in May. A lot of people don't realize this, and in fact, I don't think you realize this right now. Mm-hmm. We are doing this all over again in 5 months because the Han Solo movie is coming out in May of this year, or of 2018.
Now, why did they do that?
They say they want... So, May used to be the month for Star Wars. Like, May used to be the original, like, release month. Like, the first one came out in May of 77. And, May... And, like, you have May the 4th, right? And
May the 4th be with you.
Yeah, and May the 5th, those are, like, the Star Wars days. So they want to get back to that. So, in 2018, we're going to get the Solo movie, the Han Solo movie, in May. So we've got 5 months till we see another.
Okay, and do they have a release date for Episode 9?
Yes. And I think that's going to be May of 2019.
Okay.
So, we'll have a bit of a wait on that. But
well, not as long as a wait. Not 2 years. It's more like a year and a half.
Yeah. At least I think it's going to be May for that.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, just every movie, every side tangent they take, every movie they release a year later, I don't know, I feel like it cheapens it a little bit and it diminishes the impact. People are like, oh yeah, new Star Wars movies, so what? They come out every year. Eventually,
I think people will really start feeling that way. Mm-hmm. And I think Kathleen Kennedy, who's the head of Lucasfilm under Disney, is aware of that. Mm-hmm. Like that there's going to be, like, you might get to this point of fade. I mean, the Marvel movies have been going for, like, shy of a decade, and they haven't slowed down. And they're still, doing crazy money with every release that they come out with.
Oh, and everybody hates those movies.
Well, it feels like
very good reviews.
No, well, yeah, I mean, critics aren't always the biggest fans of them. I hate them. Like, I'm tired of them. But Though I am excited for Black Panther. I do want to see that. But, that's for whole other reasons. But, I think there's a lot of people that apparently love this shit. And I don't get it, but okay. Just like I think a lot of people maybe don't get why some love Star Wars.
You know what it feels like to me?
What's that?
I'll give you a sex metaphor.
Okay.
Ladies, do you ever turn on your vibrator and think, I'd like to have some orgasms? So you start putting it on your clit, you have your first orgasm, you're like, ooh, that felt good, I want another one. So then you put it on again, and you're like, oh, God damn it, I'm having trouble. And then you turn it up one notch, and you're like, oh, okay, and then you have another one. And you're like, you know what, I want to have a third one. And then you're like, this isn't going very well, but my pussy's really tired. And so you crank it up to the highest setting, and then you still have trouble coming. That's what it feels like!
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well,
It feels like they're having to constantly raise the stimulation threshold to get a response from people.
Well, I don't think I can top that. So there it is. Star Wars is like masturbation.
Is like a like a vibrator that's increasingly not doing the trick.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, Stephanie, thank you so much. Of course, obviously, I love you for going with me and for experiencing.
Well, I will say this: it's always fun to go on a movie date with you, Brian. And
right on.
I love you, and I love hanging out with you, and I'll gladly do it again.
Thank you. So yeah, because we're doing
whatever movies you want to see.
Well, we're doing it definitely in 5 months.
All right.
There'll be some stuff in between. So
get your tickets now.
Woo! Yeah, boy, they should be on sale pretty soon, actually. So, all right, that's it for this little Patreon content. Actually, not little; it's over an hour. And of course, if you want to hear the full review that I did, which is also well over an hour, on Sovereign Tech Prime, just listen. I think it was episode 256. If you want to hear that. The whole second half of the show I dedicated to reviewing Star Wars. I do that every time a Star Wars movie comes out. So if you want to check that out, go for it. And of course, there'll be a Star Wars update coming out for December 2017, where I'll probably address some other things. You can ask questions if you want about Star Wars, and I might address them in that show. And then we'll go see how things go from there and figure it all out. So, but bottom line is, Stephanie, you enjoyed The Last Jedi. I thought it was a great movie, even though I have my issues that kind of exist outside of it. But there you go. So
I'll give it a 6 out of 10, mostly for the porgs. 6
out of 10 for the porgs. All right, that's pretty good. I think I gave it on my Prime review. I gave it like 9 out of 10.
9.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give. Because for what it is.
So average 7.5.
Yeah, sure. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good between us. That's pretty good. So there we go. All right. Anyway, I will see all of you on the other side. Woo! Thanks for being on, Stephanie.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
Woo!